Welcome everyone. This is the second session under Web Tools and Complementary Technologies. Welcome Nigel to do our next session, Managing Emergencies with Cutting Edge Technology. So this is a 30 minutes session, and he will try to accommodate a couple of questions towards the end of the session. And let's welcome him to the stage.
Hi everyone. I've been a volunteer in the Victoria State Emergency Service for almost 17 years. I love being part of what we call the Orange family. We have a huge range of skills that we use, from safely cutting up trees that have fallen, to doing temporary repairs on buildings that had been suffering storm damage, through to providing lighting at accidents. This one is a car that was travelling at speed and lost control, flying over a roundabout and ending up inside a house on the other side of the intersection. We're also the largest provider of road crash rescue in the state of Victoria. In this picture, my unit's former controller, Felicity, is doing one of the cuts to remove a car roof during a training night. A lot of what we do isn't stressful. In this picture, for example, some members are sitting in the shade of the truck while providing standby rescue support at the Avalon Air Show. We also do a fair bit of community engagement. This is one of our members in one of our costumes for our mascot, Paddy Platypus. Even learning first aid sometimes can involve a bit of fun and horsing around. And then, of course, there are those moments that make you go, oh, like this one when we'd rescued some kittens from the wall of a house that had been damaged, and they're sitting in my helmet after they and their mother had been rescued. Sometimes, though, things can get a bit more stressful. Where do you start when you're trying to look at cutting up a tree like this that has fallen? The answer in this case is that we didn't. No one was trapped or injured, so there was no urgent need for us to do the work of cutting the tree up. Instead, it was passed to insurance companies to take care of. The biggest events for Vic SES are storms and floods. When you see clouds looking like this, there's a good chance, though by no means a certainty, that we're about to be very busy. A good example of this was Christmas Day 2011. At about 3:45 in the afternoon, a huge storm hit the northern suburbs of Melbourne, wreaking havoc from Melton right across to Nillumbik. Even more requests for assistance, or RFAs as we call them, were received over the following days, and crews from around Victoria and interstate were called in to help with the cleanup. This was my first deployment. I vividly remember houses with collapsed ceilings and large numbers of tiles missing, tarps on pretty much every second house in the area that was affected. On February the 13th last year, another big weather event occurred. This one affected my unit near Geelong, as well as many other units, as the map shows. If we cluster the jobs by unit, you can see that lots of units, all the yellow ones, had more than 10 RFAs. 5 units, including mine, had more than 100 call-outs. Monash had 413. And these numbers are nothing compared to that previous event, and plenty of others that we get. So how do you manage a situation like that? If we have enough people around, then we generally get some members to focus on managing the situation, while others are out in the vehicles providing the assistance itself. The people managing the situation will be doing a mix of things. Some will be phoning complainants to get more information that we use in prioritising the jobs. They may also be told that help is not needed anymore. Sometimes the locals will clean up whatever's needed, and sometimes floodwaters will recede before we can get on scene. They might be tracking the status of jobs, performing the actual prioritisation as to who we're sending where, when. A member might be focused on talking to SES Dispatch on the radio, acknowledging jobs with them, and clearing the ones that are being completed. They might also be talking to crews, advising them on where to go next, and so on. They can be updating the status of jobs in our information management system, not only for our record keeping, but also so that others at our region and state levels can see the progress that we're making and know whether or not we need help, as well as being better equipped to inform the media and through them the public of the state of things. People can take on roles like logistics, organising a resupply of vehicles, making sure that crews are fed, monitoring duty time limitations, organising replacement crews and replacement members. And then you have an incident controller who oversees the whole operation and coordinates things. There can be a lot more going on than what I've just described, which I'm sure already gives you a picture that it can be a huge and busy job organising a event. We follow something called the AIM structure, the Australasian Interagency Incident Management System. And that's designed to scale as an incident grows. It can end up with lots of people fulfilling increasingly specialised roles as the event progresses. So what does prioritising and assigning jobs look like? Well, we'll be thinking about lots of factors, particularly as the number of jobs increases. We might, for example, consider the type of job and the urgency to it. A road crash rescue is inherently more important than a storm job, and so we will send our rescue truck there as a first priority. We'll be thinking about the location of our crews and the jobs that they're seeking to fulfil. We really don't want to send our truck from one end of our patch to the other and then back again for a third job. It's just a waste of time and fuel. We'll be thinking about the capabilities of our members and the expected requirements of the job. Not everyone in SES has the same set of things that they've trained for and been qualified to do. So we need to make sure that we've got a crew that has the skills they need. We'll be thinking about availability for more urgent tasking. So if we get our rescue truck doing a rooftop safety job and they've got the line set up, they're over the roof, they're on it, and a rescue comes, that's not going to work very well, is it? They're going to have to get down in an awful hurry and clean up the system. And then, of course, we'll be thinking about the needs and the capabilities of the complainant. A 30-year-old guy who can take care of his situation pretty well compared to a 95-year-old lady living on her own? Different needs. One of the biggest issues, though, is tracking the status of each request for assistance. And our current information systems don't give us terrific help. The screenshot that you can see here is from OIMS, our current operational information management system. It was based, or is based, on a system that was originally made for the CFA, and it went live in 2009. It wasn't great to begin with, but it's really showing its age nowadays. There's no mapping, no easy way of us printing jobs, no sorting by priority. What's more, getting access to it either requires a unit computer or remote desktop software. So it's not friendly to working in a low bandwidth situation out in the field. Think of a crew out in Dunkeld, way out in Western Victoria, where you may not have 5G. Even worse, it's not uncommon during large events for us to run into license limitations, resulting in pager messages asking people to log out if they don't absolutely need to be using the system. You can enter who you assigned a job to. You can add comments, but that's about all. Imagine trying to manage anything more than half a dozen jobs with this system. It quickly becomes a mess. So what are the workarounds? Well, OIMS Lite is an app that was created by the service and released a bit more recently than 2009. I forget exactly when. It provides some of that missing functionality, but it has issues too. The most significant ones being that it's only available for Apple and is focused on in-vehicle use, things like navigation and entering report details rather than planning who goes where and when. Our main method of getting information about requests for assistance is pager messages, using one of these. Pages are great in that they're cheap to run, and large areas of the state can be covered with relatively few transmitters, but they're slow. Transmitters used to operate at just 512 baud, 512 ones and zeros per second. I think that might have been sped up a bit more recently, but it's still slow communication. This was one of the big problems on Black Saturday. At that stage, messages were sent on a first-come, first-served basis, and one channel was shared between CFA, ambulance, and SES. There were so many messages that day that there were huge delays in getting messages through, including ones warning fire crews about weather changes that threatened their safety. Significant changes were made to the paging system in the aftermath of Black Saturday in an attempt to address some of these issues. SAS, which I've got the screenshot for now, is the Supplementary Alerting System. It's another more recent addition, and it was created by EMV, Emergency Management Victoria, and is used by multiple agencies, including SES. The word supplementary is important here. It's not designed to replace the pages. SAS is a phone app that lets responders receive messages and, unlike with pages, send a response. It also allows people to enter their availability and have chats. Unfortunately, the attempt at implementing entering your availability is a user experience nightmare. There aren't many SES units using it, as far as I'm aware. SAS is in some ways a reaction to BART. BART is a commercial application that many SES units use, and CFA units too. It's been around much longer, and it does the same things, but it's strictly speaking illegal because it works by using hardware to receive and decode pager messages and then retransmits them to the subscribers. The retransmitting them is the illegal part. It's widely used, but it's also very limited in its ability to help with managing large-scale incidents because, to be fair, that's not its purpose at all. This lack of useful state-supplied and commercial apps has led volunteers to seek to take things into their own hands. Some members have developed spreadsheets that can be used to track large events. Others have sought to use Trello or equivalents. And that brings us to my effort. There's been some talk about SES developing an OIMS replacement, but as far as I know, nothing has happened there yet. I'm aiming to provide Vic SES and other agencies with a potential replacement, but also something that goes far beyond being a mere replacement for that existing 2009 solution we saw earlier. There are a whole heap of interrelated aspects to SES operations that really need to be covered by apps. Not necessarily one app, but it would be good if there was a shared data source that multiple apps could use as they were implemented. Imagine, for example, a more efficient way of disseminating warnings and alerts and getting acknowledgement of their receipt than we have at the moment, which relies on radio communications. Imagine a better way to record availability for different roles. So not just for your unit, but for example, I'm a operator of what they call the FOV, the forward operating vehicle, a command vehicle that can be sent out. Sometimes we need people to go out for that. I'm part of the peer support network for our state. Sometimes we need people for that. And my availability for those different roles might be different. It would be great to be able to do something for that. Sometimes we need to chat in different situations and different contexts. Driving on the way to the unit to attend an RFA, you don't want to be trying to look at a phone. Ideally, you'd use audio for that. We want to be able to track skills and maintenance of our skills. We want to be able to record incidents and track our management of them, record what we did on jobs and so on. There are so many things we could do in all these areas that I mentioned and more. So I'm aiming to build an app that lets us do that. But I'm not just going for the bare minimum. I'm aiming to make something that's reasonably comprehensive, that covers a good number of those areas that we talked about on the previous slide. I want to make it cross-device, not just Apple or just Android, but your desktop as well. I want to make it work in low bandwidth areas. So if you are out in rural Victoria or rural anywhere and you've got some bandwidth, it can be of some use to you. I want to make it have real-time updates so that you don't have to reload the page and download all the other stuff unnecessarily, but just get what you need sent quickly and cleanly to reduce the amount of bandwidth you need. I want to make it scalable and reliable and performant so that it copes with one unit having 3,000 jobs or 20. And accessible and user-friendly and intuitive. A lot of SES volunteers, as in the normal population, are not IT gurus. It needs to be really usable, and you need to be able to use it without training. The other aspect to it is we can have units come from interstate, and so we need them to be able to sign up and use it without having to jump through a lot of hoops or do a lot of training. And of course, it needs to be maintainable. Why Drupal? Because Drupal, apart from me already knowing it, ticks a good number of these boxes already out of the box. There are huge sections of this that are covered by just building the website as Drupal. But of course, there's one aspect that you might notice as you look at this that you wouldn't think Drupal would cover, and that's the real-time updates. And that's where we start to get into trying to use cutting-edge technology to do this stuff. Because I'm seeking to use WebSockets as a means of getting those real-time updates out. I've put a lot of effort so far into building the foundations for the website, and it's still pretty early days. I have heaps to do. I hope to shortly show you a bit of a live demo. You'll see some rough edges on there. Please cut me some slack. It's still very much work in progress. But I'm seeking to use some of those cutting-edge technologies as far as web browsers go that perhaps haven't been used as much as they should in websites to date. I mentioned WebSockets a moment ago. I've got it working to the point where you can scan a QR code and another page on a different device will instantly update to show that you have done that scan. So that can be used for signing in. I've also looked at using Bluetooth and NFC as a way of people being able to log in as well. My first attempt, I really appreciated the previous talk on using RFIDs. I bought some hardware and it turned out not to do the trick. I was hoping to just use something already in my wallet and see if it would register the tap. I didn't have that much success straight off. I'm using GPS. That's a good way, and of course pretty good support in browsers for it, of recording the location of people as they're going to the unit headquarters, and then of course recording where you go in the truck afterwards. One of the issues we've often had has been recalling after a big incident where we went, when we got to a job, how long we spent there, when we went on to the next one. Using GPS will make that far easier and more reliable. I've also created a module called Focused, which I'll show you in a little bit, that helps make the user interface a little easier. As far as ingestion of the request for assistance goes, in the long term, I hope to be able to connect it into the normal systems that are used now. Esther, or a 000 Victoria as it's called nowadays, has a system that connects to what we use at the moment. Hopefully I'll be able to use that link. For now though, I'm downloading links from our paging system's web interface and parsing them. That's been really hard because the format of pages has changed over time. A lot of the data is entered by humans and so subject to typos, things like that. So it means that the job of parsing pages is not at all 100% accurate. I've been focusing on building the unit level incident management so that we can start to make use of it the next time we get a big job. And I've done some work so far on recording attendance, hence the QR code stuff that I talked about, and skills. I should mention, before I go to the demo, some really useful sites I've found that perhaps you already know, but might be worth mentioning. Whatwebcando.today is a really good one for seeing what the support is for Bluetooth and so on in web browsers. Then, of course, there's Can I Use? And Tamper Monkey has been a great one for doing the scripting that I use to download the pages. It lets me fill out the forms to go through Viper, which is our paging system, to get through the steps in downloading it. And then I'm using iNotify, if you're familiar with what that is, to see when the file is downloaded and run the drush migrate import to get the pager data in. So let's have a quick look at what I've done so far. That photo, by the way, is one I took myself during the great night of auroras last year. Okay, let's see how we go here. I'm going to put my glasses back on since I'm looking at something further away. Okay, so what I've got so far, I'll go to this first tab. This is a display of the jobs that have been created around the state since yesterday. I started building the web interface relatively recently, so it's one of the rough edges. But you can see that things are grouped by the region, I think it is there, or the unit support team. SES did a reorganisation a year or two ago, and so now we have two regions, the East region and the West region. And you can see as I zoom in that it switches to the next level down in displaying what the jobs are, and then switches down again as I go further through. My data is, I've got my hotspot turned off. I should have fixed that, sorry. If I want to, I can also come over here and change the level of clustering for that zoom level, so I don't have to zoom in to look at stuff. I've got an area for filtering. Up the top here, I'm controlling what's downloaded for the page. I hope to merge this, or I plan to merge this in to this dialog for filtering eventually, because I want it to be really simple and usable. You shouldn't have to think about what you're going to download and then filter it separately. So I've got a dialog in here that lets you filter by the type of job. And so you can just say, what are the, I can't read that one, assist agency jobs that we've had in the last little while. So you can filter like that. This kind of format is available on all the maps that it will have. And then, of course, if you prefer, you can get a table of what they are as well instead. Looking at the data just for one unit, I've picked my unit Corio. You can download all the jobs that we've had since 2008, I think it is. So it looks pretty impressive, doesn't it? I particularly like doing this because then I can zoom in and I can look for the markers where things are on exactly the same spot and see the places like North Geelong train station where accidents regularly happen outside. You might think that if you were looking at this, you can filter further down by the type of job. Whoops, I'm not quite getting that thing there. You might think, as you do full text searching on there, I wonder how many stabbings happen in Nor Lane. So you might go stab and go, oh, well, see now, this is where one of my bugs is showing itself. It should actually only be showing three markers there. And they are all in Nor Lane. But the interesting thing is you can't just do a basic search like that, because if you then go and click on the individual markers to check that you're right, you'll see that all of them involve the word stabilise, not stab. So just doing a simple search like that may not be a good idea, even after I've fixed that bug with the clustering. The main thing I'm aiming to do, though, is to provide an interface for crews to be able to use as they're doing those different roles I described earlier. So here I'm on the home page for my unit rather than some specific views that I've built. And you can see a drop down up here. what I've done is implement a module that lets you choose roles. So instead of implementing roles as a combination that give you access of all the things you get access to, I've implemented it so that you pick what role you've got and it turns off the other roles for your user while you've got something picked there. And then based on that, it will show you different things on this page. It will probably take a second to do it. So if I'm working as the radio operator, I want to be able to see the jobs that are there. I really should have turned on my data, sorry. I want to be able to see what jobs are there and be able to do things like marking the job as complete or whatever, or assigning it to a crew, or maybe entering a comment on the job. So I've got an interface already where I can do that. If my role is triaging jobs, then part of that will be prioritising them. So I get a similar interface to what we just had. Sorry, it's being a bit slow. But see, now I can drag and drop the jobs and to reorder them according to what order I think crews should go to, as well as doing the assignment. I also have a separate view for the crew in the truck. Now I really should turn on my data, because the next page will not look very useful without it. Let's see how we go though. My crew member here has no jobs assigned, but he's in rescue. So let's go back here. Oh, back to the... And we'll just assign that to rescue. It's not going to work for me. Anyway, I will just ignore that and carry on here. So if I was the crew member or a crew leader, I'd get a list of jobs here and a map. And the list of jobs would include a link that would let me go straight to entering details as to what I did, what time I got on scene. And it would also give me the address with a link that I would click on that would take me straight to Google Maps with directions to where I'm going. Single click to get there. So it makes it much more useful than what we've got at the moment. And then we've got a dashboard with a QR code for people to be able to sign in who are new crews that are coming, and showing the locations of our buildings for our unit. And then lastly, there's an incident management view that lets you edit the crews, see what crews you've got, and get a summary of how many jobs we've had in the last little while. If you want, if you have a long-running event, I can set a date in a different part of the interface that it will do the query since. So say something started on Monday, it will automatically override the date for views when I go into a view for the first time, so that it's since Monday rather than since today. So that's what I've got done so far. Any questions, comments? Hi, Mike.
Hey, Nigel, that's outstanding. Well done. I probably have a few questions, but I'll start with this one. How across is SES leadership? How much support are you from the organization?
Yeah, as I said before, I'm doing it as a volunteer. Once I get this to a point, which is hopefully not too far away, where I've got it usable by a unit, then I will be seeking to get our unit and others to start to use it, to give it a tryout, and then I'll be taking it to the leadership and showing them. I'll do that sort of by proxy because I want people to be able to go, yes, this is useful and it's far better. And the unit that I'm hoping to join with us and giving it a tryout, our chief operations officer is a former member of that unit, so they will be in his ear without me having to do anything. Sorry, I didn't repeat the question. I hope you could hear okay. What? Sure. Yeah, so the question was, what is the impact of the old systems? And the impact of the old systems is that we make mistakes. We send people to the same job multiple times. So you see us coming multiple times. You go, but you already took care of my job. What are you doing here? We waste fuel, therefore. We waste time. We could be going to other jobs instead. We have a lot of paper and frustration for volunteers that gets created as a result of this. People afterwards have to spend time going, oh, when did I go to that job and how did I get there and who was on the job with me? I've got to remember all those things to enter them into the incident reporting system. And so it's just for the public and for us, there's plenty of opportunity to improve.
Maybe one. But you can.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so the question was, do I have people who can look at it now and find out how useful it is and whether there are usability issues? And the answer is yes. I mean, for a start, I myself am a user. I often fulfill that incident management role and many of the roles of taking care of the staying at our local headquarters. So I'm thinking of it as I do it for myself, not just from a developer viewpoint, but from a user viewpoint. But I have also been showing it to members in my unit as well, getting their feedback on it, and I'm hoping very soon, when I've got it to a point of where it is going to be usable, to show it to the unit more widely and get their input on it as well, and to some members who work at region as well and see what they can use. One of the big gaps at the moment is that I haven't covered reporting for higher levels for state and for region. I know they want to know how many jobs we have outstanding, how many we've got that we've done nothing with yet, the new ones. But I don't know what reporting they'd like beyond that. So I need to get that info too.
Yeah, thanks all. And yeah, that's our time limit. But if you have more questions, please grab Nigel outside the room and ask them. And thanks, Nigel, for the nice presentation. And
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.